Hey, this is Coach Arnie with Answers for Real Men, and this is our second laser show. And today I want to just start off with an experience that I had actually this morning. I was out at St. Vincent de Paul and helping to feed the homeless, thanks to my good friend Jerry Castro, who has invited me, and I've made it part of my monthly schedule to get down there a couple times a month. It's to me, it's very humbling, and it really helps me to keep my life centered, and allows me to just to get myself in a place that makes me feel better. It makes me feel better about myself, and that's important. But one of the things I noticed today, and it kind of goes along with the topic that I want to talk today about, which is better together, was that as I was talking to folks and just observing, obviously a lot of sadness and a lot of faces, but I also noticed that the folks that had the most joy on their face, the most happiness, were together with somebody. Whether they were two guys or a couple, it doesn't matter. They had somebody there to either share the burden or share the joy, whatever you might want to call it. But either way, they seemed to be happy. And this is just an observation. I wasn't doing any kind of scientific study or anything. It was just a total observation. But it goes to where I want to start with, and that's from some of the work that Stu Weber did many years ago in his book Locking Arms, where he noticed that certain animals, let's just start with geese, that when they measured the distance that they could fly, and they could fly great distances obviously, that when they flew together in their pattern, they could fly 71% further. That's amazing, than they could alone. That's amazing, because just the way they would rotate in and out of the formation, just a phenomenal thing. And then he also compared pulling horses. This I thought was very interesting, in that these horses, when they would go into competition, they would literally pull against each other, and to see how much they could pull and weight, and then together, like let's say here, one could pull 4,500 pounds, or another one could go 4,000 pounds of pulling, and then when they actually teamed them up together, this is what they found, that they could pull sometimes over 12,000 pounds. So that's literally 30% more. 50% more than you would think if they were doubling them up. That's incredible. That's incredible. So, but think about this: if animals know this, as a Christian, did God just intend animals to be able to do that? I doubt it. I think the problem is because of free will, especially for us men, we are so stubborn. Because God intended us to be together, because it's obvious that we are better together. It's obvious. I mean, even in the life of Jesus, I mean, he had 12 other men that he was with, but even when they sent out people, they sent them out in teams of two. Another thing that came to mind this morning as I'm doing this laser show, I was on a good friend of mine's radio show the other day, Ed Smith. Him and Jim Marshall do a wonderful show every Saturday at 10 a.m. here in Phoenix, Arizona, on KMVP 1060 from 10 to 12 every Saturday. And I was on there, and we were talking about men and teamwork, because I was surrounded by a bunch of professional athletes, and not all of them were doing well. And I think my conclusion was, as we were discussing it, was that as athletes, we learned early on that when we play sports, we are well aware that that when we play together, we are more effective. I mean, the greatest example of all is probably John Wooden with UCLA, or the Boston Celtics when you use basketball. But those types of teams that played together, it didn't have to be a bunch of superstars, but they played together. They could play a lot better and at a higher level than each of those individually could, and which has been proven in many sports that it wasn't always the superstars. It was a lot of times the ability to play together. The problem is after we stop playing sports, for men especially, we try to do life alone. And guess what? It just doesn't work well. Playing life alone doesn't work well. Take notes. Write this down. Life is a team sport. If you're like me and you're having to learn this the hard way, maybe it's time to stop and take a look around in your own life. Think about it and possibly figure out where you're making that mistake, in that your team, well, for most of us, we didn't have a team. We let that go. We try to do things alone because we know we can move faster alone, but sometimes having that team along with us gives us that extra power that we need, that endurance that we need, that strength that we need, and doing it alone just doesn't work. Sometimes it does. I'm not going to say it always doesn't, but there comes a part of your life that you'll discover that getting to the top of the mountain is much more effective with other people. Another thing I always like to use the analogy of climbing a mountain, and not having done that as part of a rappelling group where you're harnessed into other men, but having talked to people who have done it. You are harnessed into some other guy, not because he's going to carry you along, because each man on that group, whether it's 3 or 4 guys, they expect you to do what you need to do. You need to be in shape, you need to be fit, you need to be smart, you need to be aware of what's happening. But the group understands that at times, especially if it's a tough climb, people slip and you lose your handhold or you lose your foothold, and bam, you slip, and guess what? You need some help. And the other guy that you're locked into can hold you enough to give you some time to get your hands and feet right again and start to climb again. And the reason they're doing that is because guess what? You may be the guy that helps him the next time. When you switch positions, he may slip. And that's just the way it works there. But life works that way too. See, if we're climbing that mountain alone, many times you can get up a lot faster on your own, hoping that you don't slip. Because when you're climbing a mountain and you slip, and there's no one there, it could be a disaster. It could end your climb, or it could end your life. And sometimes that's the way life is too. So, and also when we climb together like that, when we do things together, we create amazing memories that we can celebrate. Because celebrating memories is part of life and part of doing things together. Think about the fact that, what if you were at a Super Bowl and it was a phenomenal game like the one last year in 2016? What if you were the only one in that stadium watching that game versus, the 60, 70,000 people that were there, and then the millions and millions of people that were watching it? What if you were the only one? Would the celebration be a little different than actually you were able to share having watched that game yourself, or having been there and having to be able to experience that? Completely different situation. And these are the things that we can do in life together. And so again, better together. The experience is better together. And here's another interesting thing. when we do these things, we create amazing bonds with other men through these things. And guess what? Many times they're not always joyful like watching a football game, unless you're like a diehard fan on one side or the other. But many times through tragedy, through hardship, whether it be in war, in battles, men that have served together. Famous examples of World War I, World War II, Vietnam, all the great battles. These situations create memories, and these band of brothers come together through this hardship that they went through. It could be through, again, sports is a great analogy. Men that have fought hard together through practice and games and tough wins and tough losses. Whether it's, even in, think about your family vacations. A lot of times the greatest memories come from the vacations that had the most tragedies, the most crazy things that happened that weren't always fun at the time, but you remember those things. And that's kind of how life works too. It's through those hardships, those tough times, that bring you together. Having someone there with you, especially as a guy, having another man there with you to share that experience with you, makes it unforgettable, makes it memorable. That's what this is about. Going life alone, it sucks. Having someone there with you through that makes it bearable, makes it tolerable, makes it memorable. I mean, these are the things we need to remember. These are the things as men we need to start to include in our lives. Now, some questions you may ask, and they're great questions, because I have the same ones. Like, how do we find these type of friends, these type of men in our lives? I guess what? There's only one way. You got to get out there. You got to get out there and get around other men, whether they be through clubs or sports or your job. Heck, just what I did this morning, get out there and volunteering with St. Vincent de Paul. Although I had some other things to do, these men asked me out for coffee. Now, I made a choice not to go. But you know what? Next time I'm planning on going. Because I was there. I was serving with other men, helping out. And they were going to go out and have some coffee. So there you go. I mean, you got to get around other people in order to, because they're not going to come to you. You've got to make the effort. You've got to get involved in things. And that's how you run into other men. And pretty soon, you might find someone that shares some common values with you. Could be your faith, could be your job, could be your interest, could be a lot of things. We don't know. Also, trust. Trust is built over time. You just don't walk into a room and trust people automatically. I mean, some people do, but that could lead to some problems. But trust is something that's built over time. Okay? And then, again, over time, we build teams of people that we put into our life. They could be, people, just different people that do things for you. There could be people that you work with, could be people that you share some interest on in the weekend, could be people where you shop, could be things where, I don't know, people that you might, if you go to the gym. Then these are people that you eventually could create teams of people that you could bring together at events and stuff, and you never know. Other men may have other interests with other guys, and pretty soon you create this synergistic team that is so valuable in your life. And one of the most valuable things about it is accountability. Accountability. Because as men, being around other men that share common interests and that are strong, grounded men, they allow us to avoid doing something dumb. When we trust other men to go to them with questions as to, hey, is this the right thing to do? And they say, I don't think so. And they keep us accountable. I've been sharing recently some stories about my dad and some other guys that have, like, I I guess you'd call it doing dumb, like trying to commit suicide or committing suicide. If men like that had other men around them that they could trust, they could talk to, and they could say, hey, look, I'm hurting. Not just some guy that's going to tell them to, man up, that kind of stuff. That's pretty old school, but that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for men that understand us. See, women have a pretty good grasp on this. They understand that they can go to other friends and talk to them about stuff, but men aren't good at this. We don't work well together once we leave the team part of our lives. And so we try to do this stuff by ourselves. And guess what? It sucks. It doesn't help. So having that accountability around us, and every time I use the lessons from my dad, is like, chances are he wouldn't have done that or wouldn't have tried it. And some of the other guys that I talk about, they probably wouldn't have committed suicide or done the really stupid things in their life. So again, these are just things that popped in my head this morning when I was talking about putting together my laser show, which each week will be about something that just touches my heart. And today was the fact that we are better together. And when you go to answersforrealmen.com, I've got an area that we talk about being better together, because men, we just have to start thinking that way. We have to start thinking that it's not about us, it's about us as a team, it's about us as part of another man's life, and it's about us keeping other men accountable. And as we become stronger and more grounded in our own lives, we are going to be more valuable to other men, whether they're younger men or older men, however it might be, however it fits into your life. But you got to go out there and look for that. You got to go out there and look for those young guys to mentor, because they're looking for you. They're looking for you. There's a lot of confusion out there, and we need strong men to get up, to step up and be a part of other men's lives. And that's what Answers for Real Men is all about. We need to be better so that our communities can be better. So again, that's Laser Show number 2, Better Together. And a couple reminders here. If you're listening to this on iTunes, leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. Wherever you're listening to, please leave a comment. That would really help us out a lot. Go to my website, answersforrealmen.com. You can contact me from there also. That's answersforrealmen.com. You can go to Facebook and ask to join our group, Answers for Real Men. It's men only. So that way we're building trust, guys. And I want men to come in that group and ask questions to the group, which all of us can help jump in there and share some insight from our own lives and how we can help other men. But get on Facebook and join in. Share this with other men in your life that can either be of value or need some help, that need a place to hang out and to get some accountability in their life. And we would love to have you there. You can also send me questions that I can either connect with you on and answer them for you, or during one of our laser shows I'll answer some questions that are coming up if there's a common theme there. Again, this is all part of where we're going with this, and I appreciate any feedback that might be coming. Again, my name is Arnie Fonseca Jr. You can call me Coach Arnie, and I look forward to talking with you again. We've got a great show coming up this week, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed already, if you're on iTunes or wherever you're at, or on the website answersforrealmen.com, you could subscribe, and that way you'll get a notification of when a new episode comes up. And as a reminder, there will be one laser show hopefully during the middle of the week, and then a longer interview show where we interview a real guy that's struggling, who's overcome some things, and who can teach us some things about life, about being a real man. And that will be a longer interviewed version, which will come out once a week, usually at the end of the week. And again, I really appreciate it. This is Coach Arnie, and I am signing off. Talk to you later.